What is up, party people of the SFL? What's going on this Tuesday night? I know we got the World Series going on, but you know what's more important right now? Episode 36 of Axis Live. I'm your host, Dave Axis. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for being here. I see a lot of people in the house, all the party people. I will get to you in the chat shortly. Let me know how I sound. How'd you like that music tonight? And how do you like those amazing rookie graphics that Winkler put together? He's going to do 4 rookies every show. So make sure you're here early if you want to see your name and see the yes, Joey, even with the Dodgers on. But I'm recording it, so don't tell me any scores. But Wink's going to do 4 different SFL rooks, SFL minor league players every single show. So get in here early, like I said. Listen to the music, hang out with the party people in the chat, and maybe see your name in lights. What an interesting weekend, quarterfinal weekend we had. 3 of the games, not so close, for the most part, not really. But man, that last game, let me tell you, that last game between Vancouver and Louisiana was off the chain. It was off the hook. It was exciting. It was close. And we got to witness one of the best running back performances ever in a playoff game. So I can't wait to get to our panelists to discuss that game and the other games. We've also got SFL minor league coverage tonight. We're going to do it kind of like we do the pro stuff. So hopefully we have a lot of SFLM peeps in the house, and you'll get to hear Tyler and Jack do your games tonight as well. Thomas is back with his big board, so we'll be going over that. Gunny's here as always with his pearls of wisdom. We've got our quarterfinal Diva of the Week nominees, and of course we have Axis After Dark. I don't have a topic, so if you want to be on After Dark, at Winkler in the chat and let him know what you want to talk about, and we can pretty much talk about whatever we want to tonight. We can talk about whatever you want. So make sure you add him if you want to get in here. All right, that's enough of all that jazz. Let's see. Let me see. Speaking of you guys adding Winkler, let me take a peek in the chat and see who's here. All right, who's the party people's in the house? Let's see. Chris Lee's here. CB12 Fuel Quarterback. Oh, that I know who that is. Will Todd's here. Will Todd's here again. Will Todd's in the house, apparently. My lovely wife, Lisa's here. Kendra Hall, good to see you. Hugo, what's up? Mighty Joe Young in the house. Winkler. Fierce Pierce. Cregan. Cliff Grizzly, good to see you. Doug Britton, Bob Funk as always. Benji Madsen. Cliff Grizzly. Who else? Wiggy, did I say Wiggy already? Ray, what's up? Frank, good to see you. We won't tell your boss that you're listening to the show while you're coaching a game, bro. But I'm glad to see you have your priorities straight. J37's here. Joey Phillips, good to see you, bro. About 60% Amy, how you doing, sweetie? Good to see you. Jack Lewis is in the house. Say is here. Man, we got a lot of people here. I don't know what the count is, but there's a lot. Crim Reaper's here. I don't know if you guys saw any of his Twitter action today, but it looks like he's got some free Asian action going on. The best quarterback in the whole world's here. Ace Fennec, good to see you, buddy. And Gunny, Freddie. Man, there's a lot of people. Eddie Gage, Art Vandalay, Ike McBride. What's up, man? It's like red, white, and blue heaven in this chat today. It's Lone Star everywhere I look, left and right. Matt Fennick, not really Lone Star, but maybe by blood. Hey, Greg Soto's here. Wow, man, we got a lot of people here. So, all right, good to see you, Dave Terry. See you popped in there at the last second. Good to see you, Eagles here as well, and Ron Cochran and the Rapid Raccoon sneaking in at the very last second. All right, so before I introduce tonight's panelists and our special guest, I want to make a couple special announcements. The first one is the giveaways that I've been talking about all season that I had to get done, and then I didn't get the artwork done on time, and the guy went on vacation and came back. It's done. They are printed. They are on their way to me. So if you have not DM'd me your address, if you are not a Diva of the Week, if you're a Diva of the Week winner, or anybody else that I've said you get one, or if you're just a regular listener of the show, I ordered a bunch of these, a buttload. So go ahead and DM me your address, and I'm going to shoot you guys a giveaway for supporting the show this season. I really appreciate the support. The second thing, we're going to try something interesting on Thursday, something completely different, something that's never been done in the long history of Access Live. And that is, I'm going to be traveling. I'm going to do the show remotely. So I have Lisa, my wife, and I are speaking at a veterans event up in Michigan on Saturday. We have to leave here Thursday. So Winkler is actually going to run the whole show, and I'm just going to call in like you guys do on the show, and I'm going to try to run the show like that. So just be prepared for Thursday. We'll see how it goes. I hope it goes normal. I have a lot of faith and a lot of confidence in Winkler, so I'm sure everything will be great. But just to give you a heads up, if I sound a little different or whatever, it's because I am on my phone and I am traveling. So, all right, all of that done. Got all the housekeeping out of the way. Let's get this party started. Let's start introducing people. First person on the panel tonight. He is Lone Star Glory Man. He's a regular on this show, Sim Scouts Inc., and the host of his own new show called The Station. Thomas Smith is with us. Thomas, welcome back, bro.
Hey, how you doing tonight, Dave?
I'm doing outstanding. I'm doing great. Second up is your favorite tight end from London who picks up fumbles and runs in for touchdowns, and a color commentator for the SFL broadcast team. Benji Matson is back with us. Benji, what's going on with you?
What's up, Dave?
Good to see you, buddy. Also in the house again, I think he was on last show too, if I'm not mistaken. Mr. Arizona Everything, the Hall of Famer. What up, Doe? Eddie Gage is in the house. What's up, Eddie?
What up, Doe?
What up, Doe? And then our fourth panelist tonight, somebody who hasn't been on the show. I went and looked back, and I don't think he's been on the show since the end of July. So we might have to ask him. I don't know. Maybe he doesn't like the show. Maybe he doesn't like the host. Maybe he doesn't like the producer. I bet that's it. In any event, we've got the vice president of the Fort Worth Toros. Also another tight end, the Cowboy himself, Robert Garrett Jr. is here. Robert, welcome back, bro.
Glad to be here, Dave.
Glad to have you. Doing our SFL minor league reports tonight, Tyler Falk is back with us, shortstop, strong safety from the Memphis River Runners. I got that BHB on the head, I guess. And he's also part of the SFLM broadcast team. Tyler, welcome back.
Hey, Dave, thanks for having me on the show. If you did not catch any of the minor league action this past Friday, you missed out.
Yeah, there were some really good games, actually. Also, somebody who's back with us, who's done some minor league stuff just, I think it was last week, if I'm not mistaken. Linebacker and Director of Communications for the Charleston Predators, Jack Brown, is back with us. Jack, what's going on?
Not much. Got off of work an hour ago, and now I'm ready to talk football. It's about what I always like to do.
Awesome. Glad to hear it. And then Gunny. Gunny, are you here? Can you hear me? I never know if Gunny's listening to me. I don't think Gunny listens to me. No? All right, I was going to introduce him. All right.
I hear you, Dave.
All right. Hey, I just realized today I don't really introduce you enough, so I just wanted to say Gunny's with us tonight. Gunny, welcome back to the show as always.
Hoorah!
Hoorah. Attaboy, Gunny. All right. And then our special guest for tonight. You guys know her. You guys listen to her. You hear her talk. You hear her sing. You hear her shows. You watch her play quarterback for Arizona. We have with us tonight our special guest, the quarterback and GM of the Arizona Scorpions, the one, the only, Ashley Jackson. Ashley, what's up, girl?
What is up, David? Doing just fine.
I love that. I love it. You should sing that on your show. That should be your intro. What do you think?
Oh, just like that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I love David's
We
show.
can work something.
All right, perfect. Ashley, since you're a special guest, I want to ask you a couple quick questions. First of all,
Sure.
how do you feel about Arizona's season this season? Disappointing? Do you feel like you have some things to build on? Do you think maybe it was a little more competitive than you thought? Just give me your kind of a couple takes on just Arizona's season this year.
Well, I mean, with Eddie taking over the offensive end of things, I knew that it was going to be a learning. Um, I think that we did way better than last, which every season, if you are able to show a different, the right way, you have that to build on. But I'm proud of my guys. We did the best that we could with what we were given. There were times where we beat teams that I thought that we were, and these are like playoff teams, things like that. And then there were a couple teams that I thought we had it in the bag, and it just didn't work out for. So I think overall we did a pretty good.
Okay. Awesome. And then tell everybody here if they don't know. I know that I've mentioned your YouTube show a couple times on Thursday nights at 10:30. Is usually when it starts popping. Tell everybody a little bit about that show and what you do on that show, and then and people want to contact you to be on it.
Okay, so it is SFL Nights, AJ Striker. And and it's basically a show that I created based off the old SFL podcast. Quick little story about that. I did want to be on that show, but they were saying at the time that they just weren't really taking guests like this, and this was during my rookie season. So I said I wanted to kind of create a show that everybody could come on when they wanted to come on, just give us the person behind the player. That is something that is very important because you can see people in chat all the time. You can be who you want to be on the web, but it's different when you add that dynamic of actually seeing that person and being able to explore their life through how they lived. And what I found is that we have a lot of people have a lot more in common than they think.
Right.
And it's been a blast. I have over 100. This is
Yep.
going to be like the 112th episode.
Wow.
I've been doing it every single week since December of 2000. Every week. Didn't
Actually, I think we're starting to lose you, sweetie. You're going in and out a little bit.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, better.
Okay. So I was just saying that I've been doing it for like every week since like 2018, December of
Wow.
2000.
I cannot believe you've done that many episodes. I'm only in the 30s, and it's I can't believe it already. You're a machine, girl. You are a machine. All right, let's get on to some football. Like I mentioned in the intro, 3 games not so close. We had Mexico City at Baltimore, and then Florida at Denver on Saturday. On Sunday, we had Jacksonville at Sioux Falls, and then that game on Sunday, which had everybody on the edge of their seat, Vancouver at Louisiana. That was the quarterfinals. Let's get into the games. First off, Mexico City at Baltimore, and I know Robert Garrett Jr., you haven't been around for a while, but we're going to give you the first game anyway. I don't know if I expected Mexico City to play this a little closer. I don't know if Baltimore was just too tough. What did you think?
I mean, it was such a weird game going back and looking at everything and looking at all the statistics for the games. Everything looks so evenly like matched up, and then you get to the score, 33-17. And I think the big thing that stands out as I went back and went over the game and took my notes and all that is, Matt Wilson just couldn't get the ball into the hands of his teammates. 4 interceptions on the day for him, and just a big time struggle.
Yeah, 4 interceptions. It's hard to win in the SFL if you throw 4 interceptions anyway. It's even harder to do it to win if you throw 4 interceptions in the playoffs. It's even harder to win throwing 4 interceptions on the road in the playoffs. It just seemed like they were, battling uphill the whole game. Robert, what did you what do you see for Mexico City this offseason and going into season 16?
I mean, I see a team that's kind of got to turn around and try to reload all over again. I don't know all of the losses they'll have into this offseason, as most people probably don't, but I know that they lost at least both defensive tackles, at least for the time being. Krim looking for a defensive end spot, wanting to move back to his original position, and Scott Stover kind of just mysteriously retiring without saying a whole lot. So that a big hit as they were building up these rookies to be the future, and then they both turn around and are ready to head their way out.
Yeah, I think somebody DM'd me. I think Stover retired while the game was still going on, if I'm not mistaken. That was kind of like a little buzz in the fourth quarter of that game. Probably a distraction Mexico City didn't need. Real quick, Robert, before I move on to the next game, what's your take on Phoenix Jones this season? We've talked a lot on this show. First of all, it seemed to be the year of the tight end, so congratulations on that. But we've also talked a lot throughout the weeks that there was a lot of halfbacks, or fullbacks, I'm sorry, that moved over to running back, and they all seemed to struggle almost the entire season. And I think Eddie had talked one time, and I think Coach had said, they probably need a year of progression, yada, yada, yada. And I don't mean to pick on Phoenix, because we may talk about Doyle in the next game as well. 14 rushes for 48 yards in a playoff game at the end of the season. Do you think he's going to be able to improve early next season? Or do you think it's going to take him a while still?
Yeah, it'll take him probably, at least another season. I mean, just to throw out another name that, might not get talked about as much, going back to season 12, Jason Williams, the Toros running back, actually played fullback for the Alaska Storm at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's the end of season 15, and we're still working on poking and prodding and trying to get everything straightened out to get him to be the running back that he and we want him to be. So it's a hard transition to make, and they've done a good job with it, but they still got a long ways to go.
Yeah, well, good luck to Phoenix next season, and good luck to Ramos if he's got to rebuild that defensive line in the offseason. Final score was Baltimore 33, Mexico City 17, a total of 50 points. Jack's data had the over-under at 57.5, which is really good. And they had Baltimore favored by 3.5, which they completely crushed. In the Who You Got, though, SFL Nation, we took Baltimore by a wide margin, 180-41. So we start the quarterfinals off 1-0 in the winner's circle. Moving on to game 2, Florida at Denver. Now, Eddie, we lost, Lone Star, we lost to Florida. I kind of had a feeling that whoever had to go to Denver was going to have an uphill battle. Did you think Florida had a better chance in Denver than they did, or is this about the result you expected? Where did Eddie Gage go? Did we lose him?
Sorry, I had my mic muted. Sorry.
So you want to probably, if you want to talk, you probably want to unmute that.
Yes, good point. So, first of all, I need to apologize to Denver and their organization, because I picked Florida in an upset.
Ooh.
And I did so based off their previous history back when Mighty RX was coaching the team. I believe he's 3-1 against them all time, or 4-1 against them all time when he's coaching. And so I based my analysis off of that, because they know each other very well. And, based off those matchups, Florida has always come out on top. And 3 of those wins that Florida had versus Denver were in Denver. So, just based off their history, when Mighty RX is coaching the team, he's had success against them. And it just did not unfold that way for them this time. And honestly, I thought Florida's defense did okay, but I thought their offense didn't do enough to keep their defense off the field. And ultimately, Denver ended up pulling away from that game late. I mean, Florida ended up with 24 points, but 7 of them came from the defense on a pick 6, I believe, in the third quarter, I think it was, something like that. And they just could never muster enough offense. They punted 4 times. They couldn't stay on the field, and they got a couple of drives with good field position and just could not do anything with it. and Denver just doing what they do. As I said, the defense doesn't really intimidate you, but they find a way to get you off the field, and it's not always via turnovers. And it's just, I gotta commend Jeremy on this, because he coming into this game, they only played 2 playoff teams all season, and we're 1-1. Meanwhile, Florida's more battle tested with some better opponents, but Denver did what they had to do. They protected home court, and their offense wasn't really spectacular, but they kept drives alive, put points on the board, and ultimately late in the second half pulled away, and Florida was never able to recuperate. So
Yeah, well, I mean, Jeremy's been telling us all season, right? I keep saying, is Denver for real? Is Denver for real? And Jeremy just keeps winning and rolling his eyes at me. So on this conversation about going back to the running backs, Doyle played a little better, right? 18 rushes for 90 yards.
kept them in the game.
Yeah, not terrible at all. You heard what Robert said about this halfback from fullback transition, and I know you've mentioned it before, but you want to elaborate on that just a little bit?
It's tough the first season out, because fullbacks transition over. DJ Moses II, who had a great year this year, in his second year being a halfback, he was a fullback when I took over the team in season 14. So season 14, it was his first season as a tailback. Prior to that, he was a fullback, and he had a rough year. Granted, I went back and looked at all those games, and some of it, and I hate to call people out, but some of it was play calling. So I got rid of some of those plays and took them out the playbook. And some of it was just the fact that his bill was not quite ready yet to, take on that role of being a lead back carrying an offense. So we had to rely more on our passing game, and be that as it may, teams saw that and just sat back and waited for mistakes, and they came, and our record was what it is. But transitioning from fullback to tailback is difficult, but you do see some promise and some flashes out of that game with Mexico City throughout the season. In particular, that last game, I think in week 12, I think Phoenix rushed for like 170 something yards. So there is potential there, but you just got to have patience with them and understand it's a process, and the player and the team just needs to be patient.
Yeah. I mean, kudos to Ron Cochran too. Only 2 interceptions, so that's not terrible. I think he played a pretty solid game. They played a pretty balanced game. I just don't think they had enough for that Denver defense. What do you see? Last question, Eddie, before I move on to Benji in the Jacksonville Sioux Falls game. What do you think Florida needs to work on to improve in the offseason going into season 16?
You know what? I'm one of the last people to talk about what people need to do on offense, but I will say this, as others have said it as well, and I would hate to be in my position trying to tell a 3-time champion what they need to do.
There you go.
But I will say that Florida's offense sometimes can be predictable, as they play one of the more conservative style offenses, and sometimes they just need to open things up a little bit more to get those safeties off the line of scrimmage. And you saw a lot of that in that Denver game. They took away a lot of that, and put Cochran in some uncomfortable positions that he's not, he doesn't like to be in, and force him to make throws downfield. And they weren't able to do that and sustain drives. And ultimately, I think that's what lost them this football game, because Florida's defense actually played a pretty good game. But late in the second half, it kind of got away from them, and that was that.
Right.
So,
well, for whatever it's worth, Jeremy just said in the chat a minute ago that he accepts your apology.
Thank you.
For Big of Florida.
He actually wasn't in here when I first started talking, so
okay.
I wasn't to hear it.
You can scroll back, you'll see it. There you go.
I apologize, buddy. You were right.
There you go. Jack's data had this over-under at 52.5. They scored 67. I mean, Denver almost covered the over-under by themselves. They put a lot of points on the board. But still, not terrible. Denver favored by 7.5, though. They took care of that. But look at us, SFL Nation, in the Who You Got. 2-0 on Saturday. 177-46. We took Denver. So we went undefeated on Saturday, moving into Sunday, the first game, Jacksonville at Sioux Falls. Now, one of the things we talked about last Thursday was that if Christian Christensen didn't throw any interceptions, that Jacksonville would be able to stay in this game, Benji. Well, Christian Christensen did not throw any interceptions, and they still didn't stay in this game. What's up?
Yeah. Breaking news. This just in. Sioux Falls is good at football.
Wait, what?
Next.
If only Coach and Gunny had been saying that since the beginning of the season.
Right. Yeah. We had a interesting conversation about how we thought the game flow could go if Jacksonville didn't turn the ball over last Thursday. And, guess what? They didn't turn the ball over in their game this weekend. We have one turnover. It was a fumble. Christian Christensen, did what he was asked to do to keep the team in the game. The problem is the team on the other side of the field was Sioux Falls, who just looked like they had a new gear or something they just brought out for the playoffs or something like that. It was just an interesting game. I had the pleasure of calling the game, and it started off slow, but Jacksonville was able to move the ball a little bit. Unfortunately, they had to settle for a couple field goals where Sioux Falls was able to punch that ball in. So it was 14-6 at halftime. Jacksonville still right in it, one-score game. We were thinking like, ball hasn't been turned over yet by Jacksonville, so Christian Christensen's having a good time in the pocket. He's getting the ball slung out there. They really weren't able to get Jared Willis involved very well in the game. I think that when all is said and done, he had less than 3 or 4 carries in the first half alone, so he just could not get the running game on track. Of course, we see
he
the
only
stats
had
here.
9 for the whole game, I think, right?
Yeah, 49 yards total by the end of it. I mean, they found different ways to get him involved in the passing game, but it was just with no turnovers. Take a look at the stats. The time of possession, Sioux Falls literally doubling up Jacksonville. Third down percentage, Jacksonville couldn't get Sioux Falls off the field. And for Sioux Falls, it was like they would just do whatever they wanted to do. And they started out of the gate, you would be surprised if they did nothing else besides run the ball with Colin Hart. And they started the game throwing the ball. And they did it really well in this game. Something that I've been on the mic for a few calls that Sioux Falls has played in, and the game script was just really different for them. And if they got down early, that was the idea. If they had to play from behind or Sioux Falls had to throw the ball, then they're going to be in trouble. You're going to be able to play with them. You can beat them as long as you can control that running game. But they showed this weekend that there's another dimension to them when they're playing well like this. That was just an eye-opening win for Sioux Falls this weekend.
I mean, how do you plan for 500 yards of offense? Julian Tyree, 232 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, no picks, and Colin Hart with 24 carries and 187 yards. How do you game plan defensively for that?
Well, there were several moments in the game where you wondered if we could go back now and talk to Jacksonville, and just kind of ask them what they wanted to do in the game. We saw moments where they were stacking the box, one safety back. There were a couple of zero coverage looks they gave to, and oftentimes Sioux Falls wouldn't care. They just run the ball, but there were a couple of unique moments in the game where they would pass the ball in those situations. It's like doing the opposite of what Jacksonville anticipated they would do. Right. And when it's Sioux Falls, a lot of teams would go into these matchups thinking, well, it's 3rd and 8. Well, you still have to defend the run against Sioux Falls because that's what they're going to try and do to pick up this first down. But in this game, Jacksonville was not afraid to throw the ball. And Julian Tyree only threw the ball 21 times, but he completed 17 passes, 80% completion rate. 232 yards is one of his higher totals for his season this year. 3 passing touchdowns, and everyone got involved in this game, including a 27-yard reception touchdown by Jalen Wells. We wound up talking about him a ton in the game because he's so active. 16 carries to go alongside Colin Hart's 24. The receivers were involved in the game. They were more involved than they were oftentimes throughout the season. It was just like they they enjoyed that week off on that bye. They came in with a fantastic game plan. They executed it. It's like no one was going to stand in their way this particular week.
Yeah, last note on this before I move on. A lot has been said about this Jacksonville defense, this defensive line, two of the top sackers in the entire league, and Jacksonville only sacked Tyree one time, and it was by a linebacker, not even by a lineman.
Yeah, that was also something that was talked about. What is Sioux Falls going to do to neutralize this pass rush, this defensive front? And well, I mean, Sioux Falls started throwing the ball quickly to start the game, but even then, just no pressure. Or I would say that Sioux Falls actually did a great job of planning for that pressure. Their offensive lineman is good, big old Dusty, I believe. Dusty, I apologize if you're listening. I forget your last name, but we mentioned him a number of times. Great in the run game. The offensive line was great in the passing game too. It's odd to talk about this game now and mention no sacks for that talented defensive line for Jacksonville. And then looking at the stats, the 0 turnovers, they were able to run the ball. Pass the ball. Didn't do well running the ball, but it was just a really interesting game.
Yeah, I think if you watched the game, you would have thought the score would have been closer than it really was. But Sioux Falls literally running on all cylinders right now. Jack's data had this over under at 57.5. You can't get much closer. With 58 points scored in that game. They had Sioux Falls only favored by 3, which they just completely crushed. And in the Who You Got SFL Nation, 3-0, baby. 162 to 56. We took Sioux Falls, so we are 3-0, undefeated for the weekend, going into the last game on Sunday. What I thought, and I think everybody thought going into this would be probably the closest game, which it was. Everybody thought it would be the best game, which it was. It was a nail biter. We were on the edge of our seat, Thomas. This game delivered and gave us everything we expected.
I completely agree with you, Dave. First off, though, I need to give a couple shout outs. Shout out to that rookie head coach, Mike Twinsker, doing phenomenal things with Louisiana. I'm just amazed every week at what he's doing. And me personally, I definitely got to put some respect on that name, because I've been back and forth with Louisiana all season, saying maybe that they weren't for real, saying that maybe they weren't proving themselves, and they came out and shut me up in this game for sure. Just completely showing the big play capability. Just looking down the line, if I told you, Dave, that Louisiana was going to win this game with 6 first downs, what would you think?
I would think exactly what you think I'm thinking.
Right. Now, you look down the line and you're like, how the hell does Louisiana win this game with 6 first downs?
Yeah.
And then you remember, oh, yeah, they got Reggie Streeter. Reggie Streeter comes out, goes off for 328 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns. It's unreal, the numbers that this guy is putting up week in, week out. And then he comes out in the biggest game of their season, no doubt, against one of the toughest teams that's always in the playoffs. And he goes out there and just completely decimates that defense by himself, puts the team on his back, and just gets it all done. Giving Streeter the credit that's due. Got to give credit to that Louisiana defense as well. I saw a little bit of a back and forth that was going on in this game, how I guess some of the Vancouver people were picking on Pickler for the interceptions that he was getting. And then Tom Pepper ends up ending this game with 6 interceptions. I think that might have been a little bit of karma coming back towards Vancouver. Go ahead, Dave.
No, I was just going to say that I do think that, and Johnny would tell you himself, he didn't play his best game. But if one of your stars doesn't play their best game, you still get the W. What does that say about the rest of your team?
Oh yeah, it shows that this team is a really complete team. And that week they came out where Johnny threw for 6 touchdowns. It was just kind of a statement thing to say, like, we can pass when we want to, but we don't need to. So with that defense and with that running game, Louisiana is just phenomenal. But again, there were 2 teams in this game, so I got to touch on Vancouver a little bit. Tom Pepper, aside from the 6 interceptions, the stat line wasn't terrible. Had a 71% completion percentage, so threw for 318 yards and 2 touchdowns. It's just those turnovers really killed him when you look at it and see that this was an 8-point game. Maybe if he had 1 or 2 of those interceptions back, we might be looking at a game that went into overtime. It could have been a lot different. Robert Redford played pretty solid, had 19 for 82, but it seemed like most of the game Vancouver was playing from behind, so they had to pass a lot more than they would have liked to. Looking at that Vancouver defense as well, They did have 3 interceptions, one of which was a 63-yard pick six by Ashley Rose Finch. And then Mark Lopez, the safety, had 2 interceptions as well. So, like you said, it wasn't the best game from Pickler. The Vancouver defense got to him a little bit. And then Mike Coverson was out there getting a couple sacks as well. And then going back to Louisiana, just touching on their team a little bit more, aside from Streeter. Pickler did have a little bit of a rough game, but then when you look at it and see he only had 14 passing attempts, you can't really fault him too much there. It was just kind of a up and down game a little bit. And then going to that Louisiana defense, they just had a great game, getting 6 interceptions. Rollerman Hood with 2 interceptions, including a pick six. Which, if you look at the league stats or look at the stats on the site right now, Rollerman Hood had 19 touchdowns in this game, so I'm pretty amazed by that. I guess I missed 18 of his touchdowns, but
that's MVP status right there, baby.
Definitely, he put up over 100 points by himself. Rollerman Hood for MVP. But anyways, Rollerman Hood with those 2 interceptions. You had Evan Arthur adding 2 interceptions. Tank Bennett and Jeff Milanishin got involved as well. Jeff had an interception, and Tank Bennett added a interception and a forced fumble. So it was just a fantastic game to watch. Even though there was a ton of turnovers, it was just a lot going on. Everything from Reggie Streeter just running all over that Vancouver defense to just both defenses really playing or both pass defenses rather playing solid games, and it was a great game to watch all the way down to the wire. It looked like Vancouver could have made a comeback, but at the end, Louisiana just closed it out.
Yeah. I'm about to go to AJ to get her take on all these games, but before I do, I got to tell you, there was a point there in the fourth quarter. I actually thought, I think Vancouver might win this game. It was, Robert Redford was great. He didn't get his 100 yards, but he was solid when he needed to be. They had some decent receiving. I think what was great about the receiving, Redford caught 17 passes or something on his own, but what I thought was great, and it was great for Vancouver, it was great for the league, it was great for everybody watching, is that Rich Pratchard only made 4 catches for 39 yards, but it seemed like every time they needed a first down or every time they needed a big player catch, Rich Pratchard stepped up and made that play. So I think that was a really good bright spot for Vancouver. I think, who's the other one? Oh, and Brett Killian. Yeah, 10 receptions for 130 yards. Didn't get in the end zone, but Vancouver's got the weapons. Vancouver had a great season. I don't think their record reflects the team they are, but we all saw the game, and Louisiana moves on. Jack's data had the over/under at 65.5. With 76 points scored in this game, it's pretty close. Minus 2.5, which let's all be honest. As we're watching that game, I think we thought that was a pretty solid over/under or spread. Louisiana getting the extra points near the end there to give them a little of a comfort zone. But what a game the whole way around. I want to bring our special guest in here, Ashley. Ashley, as you watched all 4 of these games this weekend, I'm actually going to pull this other slide up real quick so you guys can see all 4. Which game was the most entertaining to you? First off,
I would say the Vancouver and Louisiana. That was the only game that I actually guessed wrong on my, because I do the same.
Wait, I'm sorry, Ashley, we lost you for a second. You said you got that game wrong?
Yes, I got that game wrong. I actually chose Vancouver to win because they had been so dominant throughout the entire season. I think one of the reasons why Louisiana won was because Reggie Streeter had a fantastic game, 4 touchdowns. He put up 332 yards by himself, which was crazy. Like rushing. Another thing is that Louisiana was able to keep Vancouver from scoring in the fourth quarter, period, like nothing. So if you can't score, then, there's nothing for you to do.
And I believe Louisiana were losing going into the fourth quarter, right? If I'm not mistaken. What was
I
the
believe that they
score?
were.
34. Yeah, because they only won by 8.
They
So yeah,
were.
yeah. So you're losing going into the fourth quarter. So that was pretty. That defense that we talked about on Thursday night of Louisiana really stepped it up in the fourth quarter.
They sure did. And with Jacksonville and Sioux Falls, great game as well. I think that Jacksonville had a more balanced game because they had 232 yards passing and 270 yards rushing. So when you're able to balance your game plan like that, you put up 500 plus yards.
Right.
Um, and they was even balanced with their passing touchdowns and rushing touchdowns, so having three. They held the ball longer with 27 minutes. So if you can hold the ball and do all of that, of course you. Jalen Wells had a great game with two
Mm-hmm.
rushing touchdowns with 61 yards. Colin Hart had two touchdowns, two reception touchdowns. So yeah, fantastic ball to watch too. Florida versus Denver was a great game as well.
Yeah, here's the thing. I
Yeah.
uh, I mean, Denver just took it to them. Bottom line, and we talked.
Yeah.
Cochran only had one pick. Florida didn't play terrible. I don't think the way if you watched the game, you wouldn't have thought that Florida lost by that much. But I mean, Denver took it to them, Ashley.
They did. And Denver only held the ball for 17 minutes and 59 seconds, where Florida held it for 25 minutes and 30 seconds. And
Mm.
normally, when you hold the ball longer, you're more likely to win. But again, Denver had 267 yards passing, 49 rushing, where they held Florida to only 90 yards. Definitely makes a difference.
It does. What'd you think about that Mexico City Baltimore game?
And that was a great game. Giovanni had a kick return
Mm-hmm.
touchdown for 71 yards. 4 interceptions by Matt Wilson. I was not expecting that from Matt. But maybe the jitters got probably the reason. And Mexico City, they had 10 points in the first, I believe, and none in the third, and only a touchdown in the fourth. So wasn't really scoring in every quarter like they should be. And again, Baltimore 211 yards passing, 110 yards rushing. They were the more solid team in that. And Shark Tarkenton had a 56-yard field goal too. So
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
yeah,
I'm looking at it. 2 scoreless quarters for Mexico City, the first and the third, so they
yeah.
didn't start either half off well. Um, I want to see real quick on Ivory Irvin. He's had a hell of a season. 6 receptions for 80 yards because he's had over 100 receptions this season, over 1,000 yards. But they kind of held him in check a little bit. 6 for 80, not like it mattered, but being their top receiver, they held him pretty good. I think
Hmm.
Baltimore, just like Denver was too much for Florida and Sioux Falls too much for Jacksonville, I think Baltimore is just too much for Mexico City.
That's it.
That's it. That's it. Ashley, thank you. Did you watch any SFL minor league games on Friday? Did you get a chance to watch anything Friday night?
I did. I did watch a few of the games. I was a little bit busy, but those were some fantastic games as well. Man. Rookies, I'm really, really proud of them for the jobs that they're doing. And I will have a few rookies on the show. Let me see. So,
Well,
for instance, that the strong safety. Oh my
yeah,
God, strong safety for Salt Lake City, was it?
he did what?
Had 2 sacks. I have never seen the strong
Oh, a
safety have
safety
two
with 2
sacks.
sacks. Wow. I don't know.
Yes, I just want.
Well, maybe we'll get to that here in a second. I'm gonna have Tyler and Jack pop on here, start talking about the SFL minor league Friday night under the lights. If you're looking at your screen, this is kind of a recap. We do have graphics like we have the regular game graphics that we'll do as well. But just if you want to get a quick overview, Annapolis beating San Jose, Birmingham over Salt Lake, Madison only 12-10 over Memphis, and then I don't know what's up with Ottawa, but they crushed Albuquerque. And I went and looked at the Who You Gots, which I'll talk about too. But SFL Nation, we don't know our minor league stuff because we took Albuquerque big, and they got whooped big. So, and you can see all the stats to the side there. Tyler and Jack, who's going to go first on your first game for tonight?
That would be me with San Jose and Annapolis.
San Jose, Annapolis. All right, the graphics up. Go ahead.
All right, so it was a very tight game throughout. I had the opportunity to call that game play by play. I was able to see the entire game all the way through. And for the most part, San Jose on the road was taking care of Annapolis very well. They have a very good veteran core of defensive players in Josh Centeni, Gary Clement, Devin King. They played really well. Hats off to them. They forced the quarterback of Annapolis, a rookie quarterback, L.A. Rue, to force an interception there early. And it was only 7-7 going into halftime. But the key play, after San Jose went up 17-14 late in the second half, it was down to the 2-minute drill for Annapolis. They got the ball with less than 2 minutes to go. They were stopped. It was looking like a 3-and-out until L.A. Rue threw a 71-yard bomb to Josh Gill in the middle of that 2-minute warning, and they pulled ahead, and the defense just shut them out. So it was a very entertaining game, and I encourage everyone out there to go and take a look at least at the 2 minutes, last 2 minutes of that game. That was a fun thing to call.
Awesome. Is Jack going to be coming on for the second game?
Yep. Yes, I am. Good,
All right.
sir.
You got San Jose, Annapolis?
Well, no. Actually, next up here we had.
I'm sorry. I meant
Salt Lake at Birmingham.
Salt Lake City. There you go. Go ahead, bro.
Yes, Salt Lake City, as I like to personally now refer to them as the Storm and Mormons, came in against Birmingham, and well, they took the Fuel to task. The Fuel last week had a very convincing win over the Flight, no less, 24-7. But the Salt Lake City Rustlers, new team in the SFLM, they didn't even have like the real week to really build things up, but they still came in and they still were able to basically put the fuel. Basically, they gassed them. If I'm gonna be a little bit pun savvy here tonight, but yeah, when it comes to Salt Lake City, Tommy Utah, how fitting of a name,
right?
Goes 26 for 34 with 210 yards and a passing touchdown. Downside, of course, this is just kind of an offensive line thing this year in the SFLM, it seems. 5 times he was sacked, although he lost, surprisingly, only 32 yards off being sacked 5 times. That's a lot less than you'd think. In general, the Salt Lake City Rustlers were able to keep Birmingham under control until the last, I'd say, about 2 minutes of the game. Now, Salt Lake looked to have the game kind of in hand. They were up, if I remember correctly, it was 24-17 with a little over a minute to go in the game. And in comes Birmingham, much like their car name, starts driving down the field, but they only make it halfway with only a few seconds left. Now, those who watch the game already know what I'm going to say next. But Riley Quintero comes in with receiving a 48-yard Hail Mary for the last play in regulation, and he catches it basically over the pack, right in the back of the end zone, and that ties things up 24-24. And heading into overtime, Birmingham just drove it right back up the field, kicked a field goal, and that was all they wrote in that game. Something to note, though, within those last 2 drives combined, Birmingham went 28 straight plays on offense.
Wow.
28. And I was actually calling the next game, which we'll discuss in a little bit. Not this next game up, but the one after that. I was in there with Chad Nevels, and I told him, it's like, look, dude, there's nothing you can really do about it. You know, your defense had to go up against 28 straight plays. So I don't really blame, Salt Lake City for just being gassed at the end of the day.
Right.
They still put up one heck of a performance against the Fuel.
Well, that was another close game, and I'm sorry, Jack. I forgot to say on the San Jose Annapolis game, SFL Nation and the Who You Got took Annapolis 117-46, so they won that game, which was a close game. Then you go to the second game that you just talked about, another close game, and they had Birmingham 97-64. So 2 games in, 2 more W's. That's 6-0 for the weekend so far for SFL Nation on the Who You Got. Moving over to the Memphis and Madison game. Tyler, I'm guessing you got this one?
Yeah, a little sad that I do is because Memphis.
It's your team.
I'm on Memphis.
Right.
I'm the strong safety for Memphis, and it was a tight, old school game from the onset. The first half of the game was kind of like the San Jose and Annapolis game, where both teams got a touchdown. Memphis blocked an extra point in the first quarter, so Memphis was up at the end of the first half. But then Madison came rolling back, scored 6 unanswered points, both on field goals. I was hoping that the score would end up like the NFC wildcard game a few years back, where the Vikings were playing the Seahawks, and instead of missing it wide left on a short chip shot, the Lynx kicked it through. So all credit to the Lynx and their banner year. And no, just gotta say that even though the Lynx won, a shout out to quarterback Joseph Green on his debut, 81% completion percentage, no picks, but no touchdowns either. So if he can it was an away game too, but if he can get a touchdown pass, he looks pretty promising in my opinion.
Yeah, now if I'm not mistaken, my memory's terrible for some reason. Madison won the SFL minor league last season, correct? They're the champs?
Correct.
They're the defending champs. Okay.
Correct. They beat Ottawa. Yep.
They beat Ottawa. That's right. Okay. So in the Who You Got SFL Nation, guess what? We took our first loss. We took Memphis 91-70. So after going 6 straight with the quarterfinals and the first 2 games of the minor leagues, we take our first hit 91-70. We took Memphis, puts us at 6-1 going into the last game on Friday night. Friday Night Lights again, Jack. This game doesn't look like it was very close.
And no, it really wasn't. I'm not gonna exactly do my best to sugarcoat this one. Yeah, I was on the call for this game between Albuquerque and Ottawa, and again, Ottawa and Albuquerque last week, as we all know, Albuquerque looked pretty good, and Ottawa didn't look that great. Apparently, they must have gone into like some sort of like mind swapping thing, like it was one of those episodes, and they swapped places with each other for this game because Ottawa just came out and utterly destroyed the Atom. Like when it comes to just the way that these two teams played, when you watched it, Ottawa seemed to be a team that was a lot more in control of what they were doing compared to Albuquerque, who just could never, until like the last 5 minutes, really like pick up steam and like really figure out what they were doing. PJ Slaughter, a man who last week, if I remember correctly, I said was one of the better players last week, or probably one of the MVPs of last week, went from throwing over 313 yards to 173 with 2 interceptions, and both of those interceptions went for pick sixes. Ain't it funny how that works?
It is.
So that really does not help Albuquerque's case, conceding 2 pick sixes, and just Ottawa. I mean, you can see it on the stats right here. More yards overall, slightly less passing yards, but 101 rushing yards with Kevin Say compared to just 66 from Albuquerque. Albuquerque this was not their game.
Not their game.
It's not really. Again, there's no way that I can actually like really sugarcoat it. Ottawa, they're looking back in their form that they had last season. Obviously with Albuquerque, there's still a lot of potential there. They showed it last week, but it was not on display this week. And the worst part about this was that it was not just like a standard quick shot blowout where like you're having a touchdown every 5 minutes. It was basically a death by 1,000 cuts for Albuquerque.
You Yeah, and here's the thing. So, a couple things I want to mention about this. First is on the Who You Got. I mentioned this earlier. SFL Nation took Albuquerque 107 to 61. So apparently we don't know what we're talking about when it comes to Ottawa. I mean, it wasn't even just like I said before. The Who You Got wasn't close, and the score of the game wasn't close. Going back to the Birmingham game, and I'm sorry if this was already mentioned. I just wanted to cover a couple quick things. Ashley, the Birmingham Fuel, is that the guy strong safety Tom Krieg, I believe it is, that had the two
Yes.
sacks? Is that who that you were talking about?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And then also, if I'm not mistaken, the quarterback, is it Christian Brown? Anybody help me out? I heard he set a new record,
Yep.
breaking Ace Phoenix, my quarterback, his minor league record for passing yards, like 380 or something like that, 380 something, broke a record. So week 2 of the SFL minor league Friday night under the lights, and they're already breaking records. So this is going to be an amazing minor league season. We've already seen some great action, and we're looking forward to a lot more. Tyler and Jack, thank you very much for recapping those games. Appreciate you guys.
You're welcome, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
You're welcome. Thank you. So moving on, Thomas, are you ready to rock and roll? You remember last Tuesday we had Thomas's big board, and he has brought it back. He's got it updated. Thomas, I have it up on the screen. Want to make sure that that's the right board that you want to talk about. And if it is, as soon as you're ready to rock and roll, you can go.
All right, sounds good, Dave. Just want to start off by saying thank you to the prospects that are all working their butts off to make this happen. It's really been getting going with the minor league season really going. Sorry, lost my train of thought there for a second.
That's okay.
All these prospects being really active is just really getting it going, and everybody's. Hold on one second.
You all right there, bro?
Sorry about that. My tab wasn't coming up there. Just these prospects, they're working their butts off in the chats, staying involved, keeping their teams involved in these games, and I'm loving what I'm seeing so far. Just to preface the big board a little bit, like I said before, I don't pick favorites or any of that stuff. So what you see up here is purely based off of the activity I see, based off of what I hear from teams and things like that. Anyone highlighted in green are there people that are just like my early risers that I'm seeing good stuff from them. Last week there was a lot of names up there that were highlighted in green, and had a lot of people move up this board. Anybody highlighted in like the light blue or the teal are just guys that I'm seeing a lot from that have really impressed me so far. Obviously for like the guys like Colin Pierce and Jack Lewis, I see a little bit more of them because I'm in the San Jose locker room. So not trying to be biased there. It's just they're really good prospects, and I'm proud of those guys so far. A couple tips just to rookies coming up. If you have any off-field skills like Photoshop, graphics, social media, editing, coaching, scouting, any of that stuff, make sure you're telling teams about that. Broadcast your abilities, let people know about that to get your name out there. And then going on to the board, just a couple names I want to highlight. A guy that's actually on the panel tonight, Tyler Falk, his player Mike Ryan, he was a high riser on my board. He's actually my number 3 prospect now, so I just wanted to shout him out. All the things you've been doing for the league, man, I'm seeing it. Everybody's seeing it, and I know you're going to be a high pick in this draft because you're doing a lot for the content team. You're doing a lot for broadcasting, and it's awesome to see everything that you're doing and seeing how involved you are and how much you love what you're doing. So thank you for everything you're doing, Tyler. A couple other guys I want to shout out are some of the tight ends in this class because, again, like I said last week, tight ends are becoming a higher commodity now. And guys like Will Todd, Jason France, and Guy Clausen are guys that are just really putting themselves out there and really showing what they've got. A couple of the wide receivers that I didn't get to touch on last week, Riley Quintero. Everybody knows his name because of the numbers he's been putting up. Riley Quintero, I've been hearing a lot of good things about him, and he's definitely going to be one of the first-round grades on my updated board next week. Him, Josh Gill, Christian Brown, fullback Charlemagne Cornelius, who I hadn't been seeing a lot from last week. I've been seeing him more active in the chats. So we've got two definite good fullbacks in this draft class. Overall, like I said, this draft class just keeps growing, keeps getting better. And the last thing I just wanted to touch on with the board is just that I did actually have some names drop off of this board. Anytime I've heard that anybody missed progression in week 1 or week 2, I've been dropping people from my board. To the guys watching, it's not something that you can't recover from. You can get back on the board. It's just that if you're missing progressions, that's one of the huge things that's going to make teams not consider you. So definitely make sure you're getting those progressions done. And that's all I got, Dave.
Okay, awesome. I appreciate you doing this, and I know that the rookies appreciate you doing this, and gives them something to look forward to week, Thomas. So thanks for doing that. Appreciate it. Gunny, how you doing? You ready to rock and roll? You ready to do this thing?
I'm very good. And yourself?
I am doing outstanding. I'm ready when you are.
All right. Some history on the 4 last playoff teams. Denver has been in the league since season 11. Out of those 5 seasons, they have made it to the playoffs 3 out of 5 times. Season 13, they were the champion. The Louisiana Revolution, they started off as the New Orleans Pharaohs in season 11. As the Pharaohs, they only made the playoffs once out of 4 seasons, and that was in the quarterfinals in season 12. So this is the second season the franchise has been in the playoffs. Sioux Falls started in season 6. They have been in the playoffs 8 out of 10 times. Season 14, they were the runners-up. The Baltimore Crabs and Vultures, they've been in the SFL since season 3. There was no team in season 10. When it was the Crabs, they were in the playoffs 5 out of 7 seasons. Seasons 3, 4, 5, and 7 were all semifinals. The Baltimore Vultures, which came back in season 11, they have been in the playoffs all 5 seasons since they've been back, and they have been in the semifinals in season 12 and 13. Also, some shout-outs to the military talk in the chat room about Fort Drum in Watertown, New York. On that, I want to congratulate Eddie Gage's daughter for her recent graduation from basic training, and also Chad Rollin has a son, and also Chad Rollin has a son in San Diego at boot camp right now to become a United States Marine. So hoorah to everyone in the military that has taken that commitment to serve our country. And with that, that is all.
Awesome. Thank you, Gunny. Appreciate it. On that note, we move on to our quarterfinal Diva of the Week nominees. Jack Brown, you need to check your DMs real quick. Last week, in the wild card, Kendra Hall was our winner, wide receiver from Atlanta. She was on the show. She had a great week on the show. I think she was on like 3 shows, if I'm not mistaken. So I think this week we've got 7, I believe, nominees, if I'm not mistaken. So, Benji, I'm going to start with you. Who is your quarterfinal week, or quarterfinal playoff week, Diva of the Week nominee?
Sure, very deserving here. Let's go to Sioux Falls. And I'm going to nominate Mr. Big Al Dillapre Sr. for Diva of the Week. This is a wide receiver who plays on a run-first team and never raises a stink, does what he's asked to do, catches the ball here and there when they need him to, blocks in the running game. Definitely not a diva. Well, he picked a great week. A great week to have a bit of a coming out party. I mean, 4 receptions, 75 yards. That's the largest yardage total for Big Al this season. Caught his first touchdown of the entire season. So big kudos to Al Dillapre. But in true Diva of the Moment, Diva of the Week fashion, remember back to one of the original true divas in the NFL, Randy Moss, in a 2004 playoff game at Lambeau Field. After scoring a touchdown against the Packers, he abruptly stood up, did an about face, and mooned the Packer faithful at Lambeau Field. If you go back and watch Big Al Dillapree's first touchdown grab of the year, you will see Big Al Dillapree celebrate by the D-Pants full moon over Miami celebration made famous by none other than Randy Moss. It's on tape. I just got a clip of it to share. Big Al Dillapree moons the crowd after scoring his first touchdown of the season for the Sioux Falls Sparrows.
Okay. That's pretty diva-ish. I can't go wrong with that. Eddie Gage, moving on to you. Who is your quarterfinal playoff weekend Diva of the Week nominee?
Dave, listen.
Dude,
Once
you
I
always start like that. Go ahead.
Once I give you guys my Diva of the Week, it's just gonna be a no-brainer, and I expect all votes to come into this candidate. My Diva of the Week, the most anticipated game of this weekend, by all concerned, was Louisiana facing against Vancouver in a rematch of the regular season. In the regular season, Louisiana ran up and down the field on Vancouver. However, it wasn't through their traditional run plays, it was through other plays that the viewer audience may not see it, but coaches, I'm sure, noticed it. They're saying, wait a minute. They're holding Reggie Streeter down with these traditional run plays that usually gets him those chunk yards. But he was being held in check. It was the other run plays that held him in check that got him those yards. But in this game, same thing. Reggie Streeter, those traditional, pulling guards, he was being held in check. But this game was coming down late to the fourth quarter. And in a moment, Vancouver gets the ball back. And if they score a touchdown, they can win the game. And what happens? Rolliman Hood does not even allow them to even get any momentum whatsoever. He gets a pick six that basically puts the game away late in the fourth quarter. My Diva of the Week, Rolliman Hood, Louisiana Revolution.
Okay. I love how much effort everybody's putting into selling their Diva of the Week nominee this year. I'm loving it. Robert Garrett Jr., you're next. Who is your quarterfinal playoff weekend Diva of the Week nominee?
My quarterfinal Diva of the Week nominee is none other than Giovanni Bolt. Big-time interception return for 15 yards, but on top of that, a punt return touchdown, which, it's hard enough to get in the regular season, but playing tight against playoff teams, able to take one to the house, it's a big deal, and I think Giovanni deserves the recognition.
Okay. Moving on to Thomas. Thomas, who is your quarterfinal playoff weekend Diva of the Week nominee?
In the retired corner, weighing in at a whopping 325 pounds, at 6'3", we've got Scott Halftime Stover. I don't know what's more diva than retiring at the end of your team's first season. Dave. Retiring at the end of that game. It wasn't even the end of the game, I don't think, if I remember correctly.
No, that's what I mentioned earlier. He did it during the fourth quarter, yeah.
There's nothing more diva than that, Dave. You play one season, you got 3.5 career sacks, and calling it quits. That's the end of it for Scott Halftime Stover. That's my Diva of the Week.
And during the game, nonetheless. That's actually outstanding. All right, Thomas, thank you for that. Moving on to Tyler. Tyler, who is your quarterfinal weekend Diva of the Week nominee?
If Benji's going to pick out a wide receiver from Sioux Falls, I'm going to pick mine from the man who does it all week in, week out. It has to be Colin Hart, in my opinion. 187 yards, 1 touchdown. Week in, week out, he is bulldozing people, going beast mode here and there. If Colin Hart doesn't get it this week, I don't know what he has to do to get it. I mean, he's a stud.
Okay. Moving on to Ashley Jackson. Ashley is a Diva of the Week winner. I don't remember which week it was, Ash, but it was near the beginning of the season, I believe. And
Yeah, I think it was like 2.
yeah, like
maybe
week
week
2 or 3, something like that. Yeah. So who is your quarterfinal weekend Diva of the Week nominee?
It was week 5.
Oh, thank you,
Oh,
Eddie.
excuse me.
Eddie Gage on top of it.
Okay. So since this gentleman has joined the league, he has been making a difference for his team. Um, this past week, he had 30 completions, 38 attempts, 78.95 completion rating. He had 212 yards passing with 1 touchdown and 1 interception. He has also He's also had 6 wins under his belt since he's arrived too, out of 7. And my diva of the week is Mr. Jack Wigmore of the Baltimore Vulture. He had some big shoes to fill, replacing Mike Dazzo. He's been around forever. And honestly, I wasn't sure how far Baltimore was going to go without Dazzo. And he stepped in, filled that role, and I really think that he deserves some recognition.
Okay. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. Actually, we have 8 nominees this weekend. So that's 6 down, or this week, 6 down, 2 to go. Gunny, moving on to you. Who is your quarterfinal weekend Diva of the Week nominee?
My Diva of the Week is the coach that is filled in admirably for Gerald Smith, and that would be Coach Mike Twinscrew, leading the Louisiana Revolution to the semifinals.
Oh, that's outstanding. Way to think outside. You're always thinking outside the box, Gunny. That's cool. Okay. So we got a coach there. We got some players. And everybody in the chat is probably wondering, who's Dave going to go with? Who could possibly be left? Who could possibly be left is the one who should actually win it this week. And everybody knows who that is. I don't even have to say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. 29 carries, 328 yards, 4 touchdowns. 2 of those were long breakaways. Averaged 11.3 yards per carry. His longest breakaway was a 71-yard touchdown. He carried the Revolution to victory over Vancouver. Without Reggie Streeter, Louisiana is sitting at home watching the Final Four next weekend. My Diva of the Week nominee this week is none other than Reggie Streeter, and if anybody else wins, it's a travesty. Anyway, if anybody's seen that movie, you get the joke. You know what's up. All right, so that is 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, 8 Diva of the Week nominees. Eagle will be posting those in the Access Live server under the Diva of the Week voting room. You can only vote once, as usual. So get in there and vote. You'll have till Thursday afternoon. I think it's around 3 or 4 normally. We've had a couple panelists that had to boogie because we were running a little long. But I'm going to run a little bit of After Dark anyway. If anybody wants to get in, you need to @ Winkler. We do have one person that wants to come in. If you want to be in After Dark, you need to call into the green room, and then we will move you into the show. But you need to @ Winkler first, so he knows that you have ruined it, Dave. What did I ruin? Dave always takes the easy way out. Hey, I always give everybody else choices first. Nobody picked Streeter, so I took him. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, why did nobody pick him? Maybe because they thought I was going to pick him. I don't know. And I always take the easy way out. Hey, I can't help it if I pick the winners all the time, Wiggy. I don't know what to tell you, bro. I thought Diva wasn't about stats. It's not about stats. It's about breaking those long touchdowns, Coach. 71-yard touchdown. Come on.
Coach is roasting you.
Coach, I know. What's up? He hasn't even been here the whole show, and he pops in and just starts roasting people. What's up? Anyway, do we have anybody? Oh, yeah, Wink, I see. Okay, all right. So far we have one person who wants to be on After Dark, -5 votes for Dave's jokes. I didn't know you were keeping track there, Rapid Raccoon. All right. Hey, you should know, of all people, without Reggie Streeter, you'd be playing next week. Hey-yo. All right, so we have our first guest for Access After Dark. The Crim Reaper wanted to come in and say a couple words about his free agency. If anybody else wants to pop in, let me know. If not, then we'll cut it off afterwards. But -10 votes for not knowing he was keeping track. This is just terrible. Cue the music. I know, I should just shut the show down right now. Well, but I got to give Crim his time. So, Crim Reaper, welcome to Access After Dark. I think you've been on before, correct?
Yeah, I was a panelist a long time ago.
A long time ago. Okay. All right. So
Now,
what do you want to come on for on Access After Dark to talk about?
Okay. During the last week of the season, I'm in chat with Ramos, and I said to him, hey, look, I'm going to go ahead and explore free agency. And I said, I'm going to start talking to people during the bye week. I had his blessing before I did anything in chat. I would not have done it without it. I respect Ramos too much. He's a great leader. Now, once I did that, I got a few bites, and I said, okay, I can't talk to you during the game week. After the game is over, I will start talking to people again, and I've started that now. I respect Ramos too much not to do it, but they have two great defensive ends in Broccoli and Skylar Kingsley there. And Dave, you know as I will that when I joined SFL I wanted to be a defensive end, but the spots were taken.
Mm-hmm. It's a very popular position.
So I played tackle because I was told I could move over. Now, I talked to Ramos, and he told me his plans for the defense. I didn't think they were going to fit with what I wanted. And I went ahead and I started interviewing and told him I wasn't coming back. Pretty simple. I respect Ramos. I respect my teammates in Mexico City. They were great people, and I have nothing bad to say about any of them.
Okay, let me ask you a quick question, and then I'm actually going to see if any of the panelists have a question. So I just want to make sure I have this clear. So you said, so you came in, you wanted to play defensive end, came in as defensive tackle, with the hopes that you could move to defensive end. That's probably not going to happen in Mexico City.
Correct.
So two-part question. Number one, if you can't find a defensive end position somewhere else, are you going back to Mexico City? And number two, is Ramos okay with you looking, and if you don't find anything, coming back to Mexico City?
No chance I'm going back to Mexico.
Okay, so you are leaving Mexico City for sure, 100%.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, let's open it up to the panelists. And while you guys are asking him questions, I'm going to see if there's anything in the chat that anybody wants to ask. Let's start with Tyler. Did you say you had a question for him?
Yes, sir. Hey, Krim, I got one for you. As far as what kind of team you want to go to, do you want to go to more of a late stage playoff team, say like Louisiana or Sioux Falls, or would you want to go to one of the expansion teams and lead a locker room?
Well, to be honest, I'm kind of leaning at the expansion teams strictly because a lot of these teams that are in the league have cultures that are already set, and I'd like to be a foundation in where I'm going next, and have a culture where when I was in with the flight, Dave can tell you this, we had a very lively locker room, and I missed that, and I would like to get that in my next home, and if I can be one of the pillars to get it there, all the better.
Okay. Thomas looks like he has a question for you as well. Thomas, go ahead.
Hey, Krim. So I just wanted to ask you a question that might help some of the rookies watching.
Sure.
So obviously, me and you came in same year or same draft and everything. I just wanted to ask you, what are some differences between the process you dealt with leading up to the draft and now the process of free agency?
Well, I didn't find that. I don't think they're going to find that much of a difference. I think the biggest difference was the way the draft was structured. I don't think the draft will be structured quite as different as it was. I mean, it was an exciting draft, but I also thought it was very confusing. I think the guys this year coming in are lucky. There's not as many. If you're a defensive tackle or a defensive end, you're not going to have as much competition going to the pros for people who need those spots. You might have some for some of the guys who are in the round 6 and 7 and were playing other positions, but I think that's about it.
Okay. Anybody else on the panel have questions for Krim about this season,
do.
free agency, anything? AJ, go ahead, sweetie.
Hey, Krim, this is more so about you personally. Just wanted to make sure that you were doing okay, because for a minute you were kind of sick and everything. I just want.
Ashley, you're going in and out. You're going in and out again, sweetie. We can't hear you.
I got what you said. Yeah, I've been undergoing some health problems. They thought it was heart. That's fine. But they found out that I have a very bad case of bronchitis, and I also have acid reflux. Those hit at the same time, and I thought I was dying, literally. They think they've got it under control with medications. Now I'm still got to go for some tests in early November to make sure everything's cleared up. But other than that, I'm good to go.
Okay, good. That's good to hear. I mean, that's the most important thing. This takes a backseat to a lot of real life situations. Anybody else in the panel have a question? I thought Dynasty had something in here, and he told me to read his comment, and now I can't find it. So if anybody can find what Dynasty's comment was, let me know so I can read that as well. Anybody on the panel? Anybody else on the panel have a question or a comment for Krim?
I got something for Krim.
Gunny, go ahead, buddy.
Hey, Krim, I was going to ask the same question Dave asked about would you be willing to return back to Mexico City? So you've already answered that question. But I would just want to wish you good luck in the free agency period. I did it last year. It's exciting. So good luck to you.
Thank you. I've already reached out to a few teams. I spoke to the LA bit, was really impressed by them. I spoke to I'm scheduled to speak to Lone Star. I'm going to be speaking to Coach on Friday. That'll be interesting with the history there. I've spoken to Lone Star. I'm going to be speaking to Lone Star as well. So it's going to be a great time, and I'm looking forward to it. Again, to my former teammates in Mexico, I love you guys. I just knew I had to go to become a defensive end.
Okay, there's a couple questions for you in the chat. We've only got a few more minutes, so let's get to these. So Dynasty actually wanted to know if you're going to do a minute podcast for your new team, or will it be a few minutes, or are you going to do one?
Actually, yeah. If they want one, they got it.
Okay. And then Cameron Curtis wants to know what kind of off-the-field help, skills do you plan to bring to your next team, and what would you be interested in learning?
Well, I am trying to learn how to use this game as a coach. So I hope to be a scout somewhere. As for my other skills, I do video editing. See, everybody knows I did a great podcast for Mexico City. I was complimented on quite a bit. I can do video and photo editing. And like I said, be a mentor to the young guys coming into that locker room.
Oh, okay. And then I think Winkler jumped in. Winkler, did you have something you wanted to ask him? Because I just saw you jump into the room.
I do, and I'm gonna take the kid gloves off because everybody just wants to ask kid questions.
Okay.
I have actual questions I want answered.
Go ahead.
So you tweeted in August 20th, saying that you had a great talk with Ramos, and you talked about your timetable and your retirement with the Aztecs. Not a month later, you recant on that and start your campaign to become a defensive end and all but swear off Mexico City. So in that 1 month, while the season is still going on, and now you're airing stuff publicly, creating discord, if you will, what changed?
The locker room. It was too quiet for me, honestly. Drove me nuts.
So you went from loving Ramos to hating him.
It had nothing to do with Ramos. The locker room was quiet. Guys weren't talking. I didn't feel we were doing things as well. But Ramos and I patched things up, and I thought I was going to stay in Mexico City. We spoke, and I never just said anything. I said, you know what? I'm not going to say any more about this. I'm going to shut my mouth, wait till the end of the season, and decide from there. Now, when I went ahead and spoke to Ramos at the end of the season, I said, hey, look, I want to hear your pitch after I speak to these guys. He let me know what was up, and I just decided, you know what? Let's look at this, and we'll go. Now, Jarrett,
I got a follow-up question for you.
Yeah.
You said the locker room was quiet. What did you do to try and engage the people of your locker room and be a leader and somebody to bring people together and change the atmosphere in the locker room yourself.
All right, here you go. I asked Ramos to create a voice chat so we could chat during games. There were sometimes I was the only one in that voice chat. Period. Ramos would pop in later. Sometimes it was just him and I in that voice chat. I went ahead and I created a fantasy football league for us this year. And so we'd have something to chat about in the locker room. I had to get other people outside our locker room to come in to fill that fantasy league.
Okay.
I got frustrated with things. That's all.
You're not really engaging the team, though. You're making all of these things, which are outside of the SFL. But what are you doing to drum up the attention in your own locker room?
Well, when I was in there, I'd say, "Hey guys, ready to go this week?" And I try to talk to guys. I'd get one, "Hey, how you doing? Yeah, we're gonna do well this week," and that will be the end of it. I'm trying to get people talking
for your prospects. I'm just trying to weed out. So, if the next team you go to, a couple weeks into the season, the locker room then turns to something that you don't like, are you going to quit on them as well? Or what makes this next team that you're going to be on different?
All right, I appreciate that, Jarrett. Now let me tell you, with my next team, I'm gonna vet them to make sure that locker room is going to be decent. Because if it's not, I know I'm gonna have problems. I'm gonna basically make sure I talk to these people and find out what type of locker room I'm gonna be going into before I do. When I went into Mexico City, I was interviewed by their assistant GM. I didn't hear from Ramos until draft day. So I didn't know what I was getting into.
Okay, so real quick, I want to see if anybody else has anything because we're up against the time right now. Winkler, thanks for coming on. Krim, thanks for taking the questions and answering them too.
No problem.
Thomas, did you or Eddie or somebody? Did I see something? One of you guys had something real quick before we got off the air.
Hey, Dave, real quick. I don't know if Krim is still on.
Yeah, he is.
But two things. One, I got to give him credit for agreeing to come on the show and state his piece. And B, I also got to give him credit for answering the tough questions. He stood up there. You know, people may not have liked his answers, but I like his honesty as to why he wanted out of Mexico City. Big props for that because some people just leave without giving an explanation. I personally don't have that experience in my locker room, but I've heard that from other players. And I appreciate Krim for stepping up to the mic, taking on the hot seat, and answering the tough questions. B, Winkler, bro, Dave, you need to figure out a way to get this guy on your show.
We have been talking about it. You know what? He's got to replace himself first. I need somebody to produce it so he can be on the air. So
well, he can do both.
Hey, Winkler, you want some more work, buddy?
I would love it. I would love it.
We've already actually.
Dave,
hey, for what it's
Dave,
worth,
thing.
Krim, hold on one second. For what it's worth, we've already been in discussions about him doing something coming up pretty soon. We just got to work out the details. So look for that in the future. Krim, go ahead real quick, and then we got to wrap this up.
Okay, one last thing. I talked to Scott before he pulled his little act. I told him to wait. I disagree with what he did. I didn't think it was fair to Ramos. And to the guys who bring me on, I promise you, I'll have a good year, and I won't be a problem.
Let me ask a follow up, and if you don't know the answer or you don't want to share the answer, then we understand. But why do you? If it's a personal reason, then of course, don't answer. But do you know why Stover left the league, or do you know why he left in such a haste?
Politics. He doesn't like the politics of the league. He felt it was an all boys club, and he got tired of it. And that was it.
Interesting. We got a lot of new boys. Just saying, I'm one of them. A lot of people listening to this show, a lot of people playing in the minor leagues. We got a lot of new boys too, so that's an interesting take. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. We've gone over an hour. Oh my gosh, Winkler, you guys are killing me.
One second. Sorry, I heart you.
I'm just going to hang up and let you wrap the show.
One last question. First off, thank you for coming on and answering the questions. I really do appreciate it. And my sign off question. What are you looking for contract wise this season? Are you looking to commit long term because that backfired last time, or are you looking for a one year deal so that you can figure out if you actually want to be a part of that team?
Well, the teams I'm talking to, I'm basically saying to them, look, and the ones that I've spoken to say, hey, look, we want to bring you on for the year, and we'll see where it goes. And I think that's the best way to go. Go 1 year, and if I like it there, I'm going to stick.
There you
I'm
go.
really glad you answered it that way. I appreciate you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
All right. Hey, Wink, is it okay if I wrap up the show now?
I believe that's Eddie's job.
Is it? Oh, it is. Well, I'll let Eddie have the final word as soon as I start signing off and thanking everybody. All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening. We had some really great numbers tonight. Appreciate all the SFL minor league peeps coming in. Special thanks to our panelists tonight: Thomas, Benji, Eddie, and Robert Garrett Jr. You know, Robert, I want to call you Robert Garrett Jr. the third every time I say your name. Also to Tyler and Jack, and especially to AJ for being our special guest today. Always thanks to Gunny for his pearls of wisdom and all the other things he contributes to the show. Thanks to Eagle running the Discord server. He'll be having those the Diva of the Week voting up soon if he doesn't already. And special thanks to my co-host and producer, Winkler, for doing the show. Krim, thanks to you for coming on. Really do appreciate you, taking the hard questions and giving honest answers back. Not everybody does that. And like Eddie said, a lot of people don't give explanations why they leave. They just take off or they just ghost people. And I think you handled it like a man, and I think everybody appreciates that. So thanks for coming on After Dark. And again, thank you, everybody. We will see everybody Thursday night, 9 p.m. on Twitch. Remember, Winkler's running the show. I'm traveling. I'm going to be calling in remotely. I'm going to be like longtime host, first-time caller, and we'll see how that show goes. Hopefully everything goes well. If it doesn't, then we know who to blame. We can blame Winkler. That being said, I'm out of here. I will see you guys Thursday night. Have a glorious night. I will see you at the tees. And Eddie Gage, take us home.
Arizona, I love every last one of y'all. Thanks for coming. Good night. Drive home safely.